Artificial intelligence, or AI, has been in the news a lot lately. And since I've been an engineer and computer programmer for more than 40 years, I sometimes get asked about it by friends and family. Recently, a relative asked me, "Is AI dangerous?" And we had a good conversation about the topic. It made me realize that most people don't really know what AI is or why it has become such a big thing lately. And this has led to a lot of fears around this technology. AI reminds me a lot of the worry back in 1999 over Y2K. Many people were convinced the world was going to end when computer clocks rolled over from 1999 to 2000. And I did what I could to explain to them that this was completely ridiculous. Every product I've ever designed had a clock that would have this issue. And the worst-case scenario, with a product from a bad engineer, was they would simply show the wrong date. So let's demystify what AI is, what it is not, and what sort of real and imagined dangers there are with this technology. What is artificial intelligence? First of all, the term artificial intelligence, or AI, is 100% a marketing term. Calling something AI is just the latest in a long line of buzzwords companies use to try and sell you something. It conjures up the idea of something both super smart, better than regular people, and a little bit scary. I've seen everything from portable music players to complex scientific instruments list AI-powered in their description, and for the most part it is either totally irrelevant or complete nonsense. Since AI doesn't have any actual well-established meaning, kind of like all natural or made in the USA, companies are free to use it in pretty much any way they want. And boy, do they want to. It makes their products sound super cool and high-tech, and investors really love that kind of thing. What is commonly called AI today consists of two technologies brought together, both of which have only become possible in the last 20 years. The Internet. More than anything else, the World Wide Web is responsible for AI. There is so much content posted every day by real people that it has created a truly monstrous set of data for AI systems to utilize. This includes emails, texts, social media posts, scientific articles, news stories, government reports, shopping sites, podcasts, financial transactions, and everything else we routinely put out into the Ethernet every day across the world. This is where the intelligence part of AI comes from, and there is nothing artificial about it. It is all 8 billion of us feeding data into a place where it can be accessed by the companies making AI systems, which is why AI itself is sometimes a little bad and unpredictable in what it does, because people are. Massive data storage. When I was younger, I remember the first hard drive that became available for the old IBM personal computer, PC. It was a whopping 10 megabytes of storage, expensive as hell, and about 0.002% of the average hard drive size today. Nowadays, with massive data farms having capacities more than 100 million times the size of that old IBM PC, all of this data being sent out over the internet every day has a place to be stored and used later on, which is how AI systems get to pretend they are smart. The combination of massive data storage and the enormous amount of data we have been providing is what makes current AI possible. And despite what you may have heard, it is not intelligent in the way humans are. What is AI then? In reality, AI is just a very fancy search engine. That is all it is, a clever series of programs that take the data we give it and output a result that looks like it came from the computer, but is really just your fellow human beings telling you stuff. How does AI work? With this enormous data set, AI developers have created some pretty cool technologies to use it. Once you realize that pretty much anyone's question for an AI is likely 99% similar to millions of other people's questions that have already been answered and are in the database, then it is fairly easy to output an answer that is just an average of the responses already in there. There are 3 real problems AI systems have to solve in order to pull this off, and they are hard to crack. 1. Really understand what you are asking based on what you type in. 2. Quickly search the database for information related to your question. 3. Synthesize an answer that is customized to your specific question. Although 99% of the time people ask the same basic question as everyone else, so this is usually pretty easy. The first problem, understanding what you are asking, is difficult because people don't always type clearly and can use all sorts of regional or even personal quirks in how they frame questions. The second issue of searching the database is even harder Because the amount of data available is so massive, the system has to work hard to search it quickly enough so people don't get bored waiting for a response. The final problem, giving a customized response, can be difficult if there isn't much existing data to go off of, which is why AI answers sometimes come back as completely baffling nonsense. The solution to all these problems comes from something called the Large Language Model, or LLM. I won't go into details about how this works, but in essence, the computer will group your words into defined sections, try to match that up with previous questions and answers, and then weight the likeliness that this is what you mean. In forming a response, it does all of this in reverse and phrases the answer in a way that is most common for the language you are using. Don't think I'm downplaying how hard this was as a computer programming problem. It required some very advanced coding and has to run on super fast computers to be responsive enough to be useful. But at the end of the day, that is all it is. A fancy computer program that mimics humans by using human-provided data. There is no intelligence as we commonly think of it, artificial or otherwise. It really is just a fancy way of both understanding what you are asking and generating a result from a huge dataset. Both things computers have been trying to do for generations. Why is AI wrong so often? I actually use AI systems almost every day in my job because, well, it saves me time and can spur my thinking into new directions. One of the things I do is design circuit boards, which often requires me to search out components that I think might work. This is a time-consuming process because you must identify components you think might work, find and open the datasheets for those components, read the descriptions, and see if the specifications match up to what is needed. Since there can be hundreds of possible options, it can take a long time to work your way through all those documents and see if a component is a good fit. What I typically do is ask an AI system what it would recommend for a specific design and see what it suggests. Since AI is a powerful search engine, it usually does a pretty good job of coming up with a list of components that match the requirements I need. Even if none of them will really work, it helps me narrow down the list, and that often leads to other parts that I hadn't known about or considered. You really can't believe anything it says on face value, but it can speed things up. But sometimes it is ridiculously wrong. I asked it the other day to tell me the typical layer thickness for a 4-layer circuit board that resulted in a 63 thick board, and it gave me this. Edited a bit for simplicity. Layer 1, 4. Layer 2, 20. Layer 3, 20. Layer 4, 4. Total thickness, 63. Even the worst person at math will realize that 4 plus 20 plus 20 plus 4 does not equal 63. So I typed in, that equals 48, not 63, and it responded, of course, you are correct. I counted layer 2 and layer 3 twice. Here is the correct thickness. Layer 1, 4. Layer 2, 40. Layer 3, 40. Layer 4, 4. Total thickness 63. Now it gave me an 88 thick board. What the hell? What this shows, though, is that the computer doesn't understand the question. There is no thinking going on here. It is just regurgitating data it has in its database from similar questions others have asked. The shocking part in this case is that computers are very good at math. But once you add in the large language model and programs using data from actual humans, it loses all of that ability and must rely on its existing database for its output. There is an old computer term of garbage in, garbage out, and that holds very much true for AI systems. Why do companies love AI then? This won't be a shock to anyone, but the answer is money. The average company spends about 10% of their revenue on marketing, which is almost $3 trillion annually in the US alone. What companies want more than anything else is the ability to target their advertising to where it is the most effective, and AI is the perfect tool for doing this. As a search engine, AI can quite effectively answer the question, what product is Johnny likely to buy next and why? Searches for what he has bought in the past, what he talks about in his social media and emails, what kind of job he has, and what the mood and trends of the country are is incredibly useful both for advertising and in the design phase of new products. This is what the AI we have now is primarily going to be used for, and it is the driving force behind implementing it. There are other benefits to corporations with AI too. Since 90% of communication is pretty much the same between employees of all companies, AI can speed up the constant drone of messages between their workers, investors, and the outside world. We like to think of ourselves as somehow unique, but the truth is, Most of us spend a lot of our work time doing the same thing everyone else is doing. AI is a great tool for offloading a lot of that work into something they don't have to pay, and it will result, they hope, in increased efficiency and bigger profits, kind of like the personal computer did, or at least was supposed to do back in the 1980s. So is there anything to worry about? With the tools they are calling artificial intelligence today, no. It is neither artificial nor intelligent. It is just a clever way for the computer to better understand what you are asking and then provide the data back to you. There is no thought or motivation behind it. It really is just a fancier search engine. That being said, you can make a similar argument that this is all human beings actually do too. All of us have learned things, and when we are asked questions, we often just repeat what we have been told to us, as filtered through our own experiences, memories, and personal biases. AI has access to a lot more data than a human brain can hold, and the programming tricks used to implement it make it faster at accessing that information. What AI does not possess, and I see no sign yet that it ever will, are actual personal goals, motivations, or emotions. It is just a computer program like any other that goes like this. 1. Wait for data in your question. 2. Search the database for a relevant answer. 3. Output the data, your answer. 4. Go back to 1. Programs like this have been around since the beginning of computers, and I've never seen any outbreak of actual intelligence yet. It's just a loop that never stops, and while we don't really fully understand what makes humans conscious with their own goals, there is very little chance that the clever search engine we call AI is going to suddenly become one. So while AI might take your job someday if it doesn't require much original thought, you probably don't have to worry about it taking over the world or killing off the human race. At worst, the ads appearing in your inbox are just going to get a lot more personal as this technology matures. I think we have enough to worry about in our dark political landscape without inventing fears about AI taking over the world. So don't torture yourself over AI. And as always, support each other, vote, protest, and keep your spirits up as best you can.